Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Mr. Butcher, JB Butcher. I hope that's Mel. JB Butcher to come. I was already there. Thank you very much. Mr. Businje Michael, Community Member, Oil and Gas, Alberton Region. May I invite Ms. Sophie Chagulanyi from OXFAM? Ms. Sophie Chagulanyi. May I also invite Karo Nakajubi from Action Aid International Uganda. Karo. May I invite Robert Tumwesje, Mr. Robert Tumwesje. Robert Tumwesje. Once again, Elizabeth Biarugaba, if Elizabeth is here. I called the panelists earlier because we also have a live television broadcast, so that after we've had welcoming remarks and I've had a presentation, we don't have to call them to come because that will take time. So they are already seated. So that when we start, we don't start with these empty chairs. That's why it's a bit different. So what I'm going to do when we go on air, I'll call people supposed to give us welcoming remarks, and then the main presentation, and then I call somebody who will be chairing the panel discussion, then it starts from there. Good morning and welcome to this important launch of the Citizens' Manifesto on Petroleum and Mining. We are at that time in our country when all those who are aspiring to lead are moving across this country trying to dazzle you, to tell you what they can do or even change your lives. But for the citizens, they have made this job easier for them because they have come out with a manifesto on mining and petroleum. And I think what they are saying is that let the mining or development of these mines and petroleum be fair, be just, be inclusive, and most of all, be sustainable. And so today we're going to hear what they have in their package. But we also have the politicians who are aspiring to lead them from 2021 to 2026, so that maybe there can be a harmonization of what the citizens are saying and what the politicians are trying to promise. That is the reason why we meet today, this morning. So welcome you, our viewers across Uganda on NTV, and all those who are in this auditorium at Imperial Royal. My name is Patrick Kamara. But before we go further, it is always important to honor God. So we're going to put this launch into the hands of God through a prayer. May I invite Mr. Martin Okumu, who will lead us in a prayer. Martin.
Thank you so much. Let us humble ourselves and we pray. Heavenly Father, we pray that you guide us during this discussion when we shall analyze the Citizen Manifesto. And this manifesto will guide us on how the people of Uganda want the petroleum and mining sector are to be managed. We also pray that you give guidance to all our leaders, our policy makers, and all technical people, so that whatever they do in the petroleum and mining sector should be beneficial first to the communities in the areas where those mines are and to the entire Uganda. Heavenly Father, we pray that all what we are going to discuss will be guided by you, will be in your honor that we serve this country, Uganda, and we make all resources that you endowed us with so that it benefits our economy. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for giving Uganda endless available resources in terms of our land, in terms of our water resources, in terms of the petroleum and other minerals. This endowment, therefore, is a kind gift to this country, and may this country prosper because of that. In Jesus' name, we are prayed. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin Okumu. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take the opportunity to invite Mr. Javier Ejoyi, who is the country director, Action Aid International Uganda, to give us the welcoming remarks. Let us welcome him with a round of applause, Javier.
Thank you very much, Patrick Kamara, for that introduction. As said, my name is Xavier Ejoyi. I work with Action Aid as country director. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you. I observe all protocol in this room. Action Aid is pleased to join and collaborate with Africa Center for Energy and Minerals Policy, Publish What You Pay, OXFAM Uganda, Biodiversity Conservation in Uganda, and Center for Social and Environmental Rights in facilitating the development of the Citizens Manifesto on mining and petroleum, what we are all gathered here today to launch. The manifesto represents citizens' aspirations for an efficient mining and petroleum sector and inclusive development of that sector in Uganda. It is a result of collaborative work over the years of engagement with citizens, but especially reflecting on meaningful participation of citizens in the sectors that I just talked about. But this participation and consultation has culminated into an elaborate manifesto that we're all gathered here to launch this morning. Someone may ask, a manifesto is for political parties. Are these partner organizations running for public office? I would like to clarify that none of these organizations, at least to the best of my knowledge, represented here is a political party or even running for political office in the forthcoming elections. Our work focuses on promoting equal participation of Ugandan citizens in the socio-economic development of their country, and in so doing, we are interested in policy spaces that can either enhance or hinder the full participation of citizens, especially those who are living in extreme poverty, so that they are able to participate in the socio-economic development of this country. It goes without saying that one such space which is critical is the forthcoming general elections. In line with this, allow me just a few minutes to talk about three things, then I'll be gone from here. Number one, the resource potential of the mineral and petroleum potential of Uganda is immense. The development of Uganda's mineral resources has been growing over the years and remains a huge potential for national development and socio-economic transformation of this country. Although there have been estimates of the revenue potential of the oil and gas deposits, especially in the Albertine Graben, the full scale of the economic benefits from the sector and other auxiliary services may never be known with mathematical precision. But as I said, they remain immense. Yet, also, we know that a recent National Geological Survey indicates that the vast diversity of mineral deposits in Uganda dwarfs even the most generous estimates and forecasts of petroleum revenue as we know today. Taken together, the two, petroleum and mining, have the potential to transform Uganda's social and economic development for a more inclusive society. On the one hand, if well used, it will transform the nation that we love as Uganda fundamentally. On the other hand, though, if not well managed, lessons from elsewhere, including in our neighborhood, points to a direction that these rich resources can actually be a potential for a dysfunctional state. Standing between the two paths are the policies government adopts for the extraction, development, and utilization of these resources. The Citizens' Manifesto on petroleum and mining is therefore the aspiration of Ugandan citizens on what these policies should look like. It is an invitation for all political parties and candidates who are running for office in the 2021 elections to place the needs and interests as well as the rights of citizens at the center of their political agenda. We particularly put emphasis on the need to go beyond the macroeconomic statistics, on the actual and potential contribution of the petroleum and mining sector, to understanding the impact of the sector's development on all citizens. We take particular interest on the structural barriers that exclude especially women and young people in the sector, and the implication of this on Uganda's economic, social, and even political development trajectory. And secondly, it has implications on the public financial management and the sector. Public financial management is both a determinant and indicator of the progress that we can make as a country in advancing a more efficient and inclusive development of the petroleum and mining sector. It is putting the money where the mouth is, so the saying goes. As noted earlier, there is no doubt that the sector holds significant revenue potential, and with it, the keys to socioeconomic transformation of this nation. However, even the most generous revenue and macroeconomic forecasts will only yield the transformation that citizens need if and only if they are grounded on solid public financial management policies. The Citizens' Manifesto on Petroleum and Mining delves into matters of licensing, taxation, resource allocation, transparency and accountability in the sector, local content development, community development, and issues of human rights and safety of the actors in the sector. All these aspects are central to citizen participation in the sector. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude my remarks by saying, basically making a call for citizens' voice in the development of the petroleum and mining sector. And therefore, let me end my remarks by reminding all of us seated in this room and watching over across this country that we have a call that we're making on to each and every one of us to uphold the voices of citizens, the women, the young people, the people with disabilities, and different people across this nation who are living on the fringes. It is not only an important call, but it is a necessity for the development of the country. Our national pride in the size of the petroleum and mining deposits or world prices of oil, gold, cobalt, uranium, tungsten, or whatever minerals are in Uganda do not really mean much if the quality of education, of healthcare, of livelihood, of infrastructure, of citizens who are living just next door to the mines remains wanting. And I want to particularly appeal to the political parties represented here and who are watching from elsewhere, that you have an opportunity to use these voices of citizens as reflected in this manifesto in aggregate to inform your own manifesto development, or at least for those who have already developed, to inform the policies that you will implement as a political party on resource allocation after the elections. It is our hope as partners that you will take the candid reflections for the policy options in this manifesto and the ensuing discussions in this meeting today with great positivity. I call on all citizens to use this manifesto to demand from political parties and candidates a commitment towards a more efficient and inclusive development of the petroleum sector and the mining sector in Uganda. I thank you.
Give Javier another round of applause. You know, the most important thing I've noticed this morning, that we have people from the ministries, departments, and agencies of government. We have civil society organizations. We have political party leaders who are contending to lead, who are aspiring to lead. But most of all, we have the citizens. So when Javier was talking about the immense potential that petroleum or the mining sector has, I think that is encouraging. But also he puts a caveat that if we must use it well, because if we don't use it well, that immense potential can be a potential for a dysfunctional state. And there are so many examples around our region. And he ended by telling us the issue of the local content policy, which I think is very interesting. But how many are taking part in that local content policy? Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite Mr. Francis Odokorach, who is the country representative of OXFAM International, to come and also give us welcoming remarks. Francis, please let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you very much, representatives from the different government ministries here present today, representatives from civil societies organizations, representatives from political parties contending for elective positions in this forthcoming election. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear brother Javier has ably articulated the reasons we're here today. That is to launch the Citizens Manifesto on petroleum and mining. And we use this opportunity to remind ourselves on a number of issues. My name is Francis. I'm the country director of OXFAM in Uganda. OXFAM is an international confederation of organizations working together with partners and local communities in more than 90 countries, mobilizing the power of people against poverty. In Uganda, we have been operating since the 1960s. And since then, we have continued to implement both development and humanitarian programs to support practical, innovative ways for people to lift themselves out of poverty and thrive. We work with poor communities, local organizations, volunteers, and supporters to bring change. It is a very public knowledge that Uganda is well endowed with various natural resources, mainly minerals, oil and gas. And we are also reminded that Article 237 of the 1995 Constitution created a public trust over specific important renewable natural resources such as minerals, oil, gas, natural lakes, rivers, wetlands, forest reserves, and others. This means that the state holds all of these resources in trusts of the people. It is therefore absolutely important that as leaders take on leadership roles, they are reminded, and we are all reminded about this fact. And that also implies that the citizens themselves have got a responsibility to engage in this process. It is on this basis that civil societies organizations are engaging and contributing to this debate and discussion. The extractive sector in Uganda indeed presents a great opportunity to Ugandans. As my brother has ably mentioned, if well managed in a responsible manner. That also takes into consideration the human rights of the people, and as well as having an inclusive approach, equitable manner, and a transparent approach that does recognize the importance that this sector brings to this country. I would also like to emphasize that this sector requires a lot of evidence-based approach to decisions. And civil societies organization presents you with a great opportunity with well-researched data that you can access that can inform your decision when you assume office. I would like to also emphasize that for OXFAM over the last few months, we have launched 2 critical research that is available that you can also access. One is on the human rights impact assessment of the East African crude oil pipeline. We know that this has a huge potential on both the livelihoods, on the land rights, and different impacts that it has on thousands of people who have originally been occupying the areas that this oil pipeline will be passing through. And of course, the most recent one is on the money pipeline, which demonstrates that despite all of this potential that we have, there are loopholes in our agreements that the government of Uganda does sign with other countries, that if it is not well taken care of, then we stand a big chance of losing a lot of money through the tax agreements that this country does sign with others. It is on this basis, therefore, that I would like to take the opportunity once again to thank the partner organizations that together
with ourselves, have been able to convene this dialogue and also the launch of this manifesto. I welcome you, and I ask you to engage in this process online and as well as we continue through the campaign period. I thank you so much.
Another round of applause of Francis Odokorach, Country Director, OXFAM Uganda. Thank you so much. I think the resources that we have are finite. At one moment, they may not be there. How we use them today will show how serious we can be and how committed we are to serving our country. And so the citizens have their manifesto, and I can imagine you, the politicians, they have made that work very easy. One thing I think I have noticed that what they want is the development and management of the resources should be fair, should be inclusive, should be, most of all, sustainable. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite Mr. Beyina Don to come and give us the overview of the Citizens Manifesto on Petroleum and Mining. And this presentation will take us deep into understanding what the issues are, and from there we shall have a panel discussion and a plenary where you'll have to participate. Let us welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you, Kamara. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Allow me first acknowledge the good work done by Publish What You Pay, OXFAM Uganda, Action Aid International, Uganda Africa Center for Energy and Mineral Policy, and Center for Social and Environmental Rights, as well as pro-biodiversity conservationist. Would like to also thank the Uganda Association of Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners, as well as the different community representatives from the Albertine region who provided invaluable input during the consultative process. Would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Democratic Governance Facility, DGF, and the Finland Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the Publish What You Pay International Secretariat for the financial support that has made this gathering of this information very important. My name is Bwesje Don Binyina. I'm the Executive Director at the Africa Center for Energy and Mineral Policy. We're a policy think tank and organization based in Uganda that focuses entirely on the governance and management of the extractive sector in Uganda and within the region. And we are happy to have partnered with all these organizations that I've mentioned to make this a success. Before I delve down into the content of our findings as voiced by the respective communities from the oil-rich region as well as the several mining regions of Uganda, I'd like us to first recognize that this is a process that reminds our political leaders on their constitutional obligations. Article 244 of our Ugandan Constitution provides for the governance of petroleum and natural resources and puts it in the custody of our governments. That includes the government that assumes office, it includes the legislative arm, it also includes the judiciary. And of course, all that is done in custody on behalf of Ugandan citizens. The current election cycle also happens to coincide with our third national development cycle, the third national development plan, which clearly identifies the two sectors as of great importance to the development and sustainable economic development of our country. Mining alone supports close to 2 million Ugandans. That's about 4% of our Ugandan population and electorate. That's why it's very important that we pay clear attention to this. We expect, as per the projections, that close to 50 billion US dollars will expect to be harvested from the petroleum sector once production commences. So these sectors are both of great macro and micro economic importance to the development of our economy. And that's why it is very important. Now, we are also glad that in this meeting, we have the representation of the different political parties. We have the incumbent National Resistance Movement, we have the respective other opposition parties and the independent parties, but we also have the independent, we also have the legislators, we also have the local government leaders that are also part of this process. So it is very, very important that voices of the masses are listened to. I'm sorry for the ruling national movement. Being the incumbent, you're likely to find yourself playing defensive, while the opposition parties are, of course, on attack. Like I said, this manifesto is a compilation of citizens' voices. It is a concerted appeal of Ugandans to the next cohort of political leaders in the 2021-2022 political cycle to strive to ensure that development and management of petroleum and mining industry resources is transparent, fair, just, inclusive, and sustainable. The manifesto also targets all the operational political parties in Uganda and their candidates, as well as independent candidates who are vying for any of the following political offices. We have the presidency, the MPs, as well as district chairpersons. We believe that these three categories of leaders are in position to consider and implement the recommendations that are contained in this document at central and both local government level. Political parties are well positioned to address some of the biggest challenges associated with the resource wealth, such as inflated citizens' expectations, political short-termism, as well as conflict associated with the development of these resources. We are aware that some political parties, candidates may have already developed their manifestos in preparation for the upcoming political campaigns, but we believe this manifesto merely intends to supplement those parties or candidates' manifestos and other more grounded alternatives in order for them to make realistic and political commitments to the electorate. We believe that the petroleum and mining industry is a critical area, and every political leader that aspires to serve in public office must commit to improve its performance. Former Russian political leader Lenin once considered these two sectors to be the commanding heights of every economy that every leader must control. This manifesto represents citizen voices from across the petroleum and mineral-rich areas as presented in three categories. So one part of what I'm about to present presents the issues and recommendations relating to the mining sector. The second part deals with petroleum industry, and then we also have cross-cutting issues that interface in the two sectors. So, the mining industry, what are the people saying? The first is that politicians or political leaders should stop political interference in the mining sector and establish a one-stop center for all mineral investments coming into the country. While the Constitution bestows the powers to govern this sector on the political leaders must work in hand with the technical arms of the government institutions that have been put in place to develop these sectors. regulate and where necessary avoid tax holidays that are harmful and leading to revenue erosion in the mining sector. Tax rebates or tax holidays can be a danger because quite most times the resources can be depleted before the country or the host country retains any value. That's why these need to be dealt with carefully. Cancel and reclaim all non-performing licenses. It's an open secret that most of the licenses in Uganda, especially for the mineral sector, are held by either politicians or they are in the hands of speculators, passive speculators with no technical or financial capacity to develop these resources. Expedite the review of the Mining Act of 2003 to provide for open bidding with a sealed bid process and a decision made against established criterion such that the best bidder is granted mining rights. Now, the Mining Act of 2003 largely focuses on first come, first serve. The intention then in 2003 was to attract investment into the sector. But over time, that has been overtaken by the immense demand for these commodities that require, where information is available, open bidding, so that you access the best investment and the best technically capable and financially able investors to develop your sector. Allocate adequate financial and human resources for due diligence in the mining industry to ensure that only technically and financially competent applicants are considered for mineral licenses. For avoidance of conflict of interest, public servants and politicians should be barred from owning mining rights or be required to declare beneficial interests where these exist. Our research demonstrates that a significant number of mineral licenses are in the hands of former ministers, politicians, and quite often you find that the regulatory arms of government are not in position to regulate the very bosses they appear before parliamentary committees of parliament or in public offices where they serve, which makes their work very complicated. Medium to large scale companies should be required by law to set up apprenticeship, internships, programs for youth skilling, integration, and employment within the company. While it's understandable internationally that the petroleum sector is a thin employer, on the other hand, the mining sector has potential to absorb a significant number of our youth. And this is demonstrated by some of the members that were part of this process. We have about 5 regions of artisanals and small-scale miners across the country, from Karamoja, Western Uganda, Central Region, Eastern to Northern Uganda. Some are involved in developmental minerals or what we consider to be construction materials and minerals. Others are involved in the gold business, but very few of those are quite skilled. That's why skilling them for the sustainability and progress of these sectors is very important. Review the duration of location licenses to extend them beyond the current years. Our engagement with the different ASMs across the country was suggesting a period of 10 to 15 years. For purposes or for the reason that it's too hard for anyone to access finance, prepare technology to actually develop a mining project within a period of 2 years. So that has been advised that that should be revised. Decentralize and empower local governments to license artisanal and small-scale operations, including operations for development minerals. The medium to large-scale mining companies should be required by law to enter into community development agreements with the host communities such that they supply the required goods and services so as to benefit from the resources within their community. Establish an ASM fund. You will hear me say a lot about ASMs for the simple reason that 90% of our mining sector is run by artisanals and small-scale miners, with almost little support from the government. We are aware that the government has supported put in place an agricultural fund. And our research on the ground discovers that even some of the miners, because the banking institutions and the financials do not consider mining to be bankable, put collateral for the agricultural farms, but in actual sense they use funds from the mining activities to pay back these loan facilities they acquire. So we are inviting, and we are happy that over time some financial institutions have expressed interest in understanding the value chain of the mining sector. Reinstate the 5% of royalty on gold mined within Uganda and 1% of royalty on gold imported within the country. Now, to our dear representatives of the different political parties, our law provides for 5% royalty taxation on all precious metals. That includes gold. But by a presidential decree, this 5% was removed about 2 years ago. It's not written anywhere, but the relevant authorities today are not taxing that 5%. Neither are they taxing the 1% of imported gold or imported mineral resources, largely it's gold, for re-export. Why is this very important? That the 5% royalty rate benefits the local governments. It also benefits the local host communities where these resources are mined from. Now, as we speak today, gold is one of the most, #1 export for the country. Unfortunately, our local governments, our local communities where the gold is mined are not receiving any portion of this royalty. It was just a decision made by the president overnight, and to date, that law is not being applied. So the voices from the communities where these resources are mined are saying we need to ensure that this 5% royalty is reinstated or even increased. Adhere, and this is a charge now on the political parties, be it the NRM in place, in charge, or be it whoever takes over the next office. Adhere to and implement the regional certification mechanism as per the ICJLR guidelines, and ensure effective implementation of VITI. Now, the RCM, or the regional certification mechanism, is a 12-member state where Uganda is a member, promoting responsible exploitation of 3 Ts. 3 Ts, we are talking about tin, we are talking about tantalum, we are talking about tungsten, as well as gold, in order for them to be able to access the international market. Local governments, in partnership with mining companies, should establish weigh bridges within their districts to take stock of all bulk minerals exiting their borders for purposes of verifying declarations by the companies and the royalties due to districts, communities, and landowners. We discovered through the collection of these ideas from the communities that all the districts in Uganda where minerals are mined, from Kasese in western Uganda to the east in Karamoja, there's no single way bridge at the exit of their borders. Now, the government entirely relies on self-declaration, by self-assessment and self-declarations by the mining companies. Our HIMAs, our Toro Cement simply declare, and the government lacks capacity to actually verify those declarations. So there's a lot of revenue being lost, because if these resources exit without the local governments and communities being aware of how much has exited their borders, they have no control over how much they're entitled to in terms of royalties that they are entitled. A minerals enforcement agency should be created under the Mining and Minerals Act, which is in the offing, and adequately trained under the guidance of the Directorate of Geological Surveys and Mines. It should be clearly answerable to the DGCM leadership. You must have all observed through the media over the last several months, fights between the minister in charge of mines as well as the Mineral Protection Unit of police. So there's lack of leadership, there's lack of control, there's lack of cohesion between the government agencies on how best to manage this sector. And the idea here is that we need an agency specialized that answers to the relevant government agency that addresses issues of smuggling, issues of non-compliance. Undertake an investigation into allegations of illegal mining, corruption, human rights violations, abuse of office, among others, by the Police Minerals Protection Unit against miners, license holders, mineral traders, and exporters, among others. If you might be aware, sometime in 2017, government embarked on a policy of cleaning the mines, so they said, cleaning the mines of illegal miners, from across Ugandan borders, non-citizens, and in doing so, they brought in the army, they brought in the police, which was supposed to work in hand with the relevant authority. Unfortunately, as we speak, the militarization of our mining sector has taken away the powers of the regulator. You find illegal mining taking place under the watch of the people that were put there to protect our resources for the benefit of all Ugandans. Cases of human rights abuses. We did a documentation of several artisanal miners that were treated, beaten, maimed, extorted. You can now not own a mining license and operate it in Uganda without paying off the so-called Mineral Protection Unit. License holders, legal license holders, have been unable to access their mineral rights and execute their mandate because those mines have been taken over by the Mineral Protection Unit. So this is a big challenge in the sector that must be addressed. Set up regional marketing centers and minerals for gold banking system mechanisms. On the petroleum side of things, it is the voice of the petroleum communities that there's need to enact a standalone petroleum revenue management law or put in place petroleum revenue management regulations to effectively manage petroleum revenues. This is happening at a point where reports from the Office of the Auditor General indicates that our central bank or the petroleum fund has been consistently raided by the government in power. And as we speak, that fund is depleted from over 300 billion shillings to around 87 billion shillings. I was actually joking with colleagues on social media that I'm even surprised that we still have 87 billion shillings on that account with absolutely no oversight from our parliament and legislative arm. There is advice that we need to review sections 62 to 68 of the Public Finance Management Act to remove restrictions on savings under the Petroleum Revenue Investment Reserve to only be invested outside the country. We amend the Public Finance Management Act to provide a financing model for the Uganda National Oil Company. This is very critical if you've looked at the stories from Nigeria on how their national oil company has underperformed over the years. Not necessarily because it lacks funds, but because it's very easy for the ruling government to dip their hands into the resources that are reserved for the national oil company. We do not have proper regulations that are safeguarding our country with regard to the management of the national oil company, which is playing both a fiscal role as well as a regulatory role and business for the government. Strengthen Section 58 of the Act, that is the Public Finance Management Act, by making it explicit that money flowing to the annual budget cannot be characterized. Review the Act and adopt fiscal rule for petroleum fund withdrawals. Now, a fiscal rule guides you on how you enterprises, facilitate the provision of gender-focused personal protective equipment, or PPEs, procure modern waste management equipment, including standard incinerators, build the capacity of mining and petroleum host communities in the management of waste, operationalize the ASM fund as provided for in the Mining and Minerals Policy 2018, establish specialized public vocational business and technical training institutions, support skills enhancement, develop model community development agreements, or CDAs, between mining companies and host communities to allow for supply of goods and services such that a significant value is retained at the source of the mining project. Promote participation of women in extractive sector activities. Mineral rights holders should be held liable for any contributions to social and environmental harm. The rights holder should pay appropriate compensation, not only for certain disturbances, but any disturbance or negative environmental impact caused by mining operations. Establish a special tribunal to hear and resolve disputes related to access to land and surface rights in mining and petroleum operations. The issue of conflict over land, accessibility of land for mineral development and petroleum resource development is very significant. And we lack a national policy or regulations that clearly guides investors on how to adequately access the land. The Mining Act, the Mining Act is silent. The land regulations are not alive to these two important sectors, and this has been left to the investors and to the communities to fend for themselves, fend for themselves. As you might understand, or you know, right now, a significant number of projects, especially in the developmental mineral sector, construction materials and minerals, significant number of roads, starting with our Entebbe-Kampala Express, going to Moroto Nakapiripirit, coming back to Isimba Dam, coming back to, Kajansi Clays, going to Karuma Dam. All these are matters that are in courts of laws, where the landowners are claiming for compensation for these resources. It has also jeopardized development of these projects. What actually happens is the road constructors or the dam constructors give a significant bill to government, bills of quantities on the materials they are going to acquire. When they go to the local governments, the communities, because they are naive, they pay them less than 1% of what they have received from the government. So these are all areas that need to be interrogated by our politicians. We hope that this manifesto can be put to good use by any political party or candidate aspiring for political office in the forthcoming 2021 elections. We hope that it can guide political parties or candidates' approach to unlocking the potential of Uganda's extractive sector. Beyond the political campaign period, we urge Ugandans' next political leaders, 2021-2026, to use this manifesto to guide their policy formulation and resource allocation towards the extractive sector. After all, this manifesto represents the voices of Uganda. As a coalition of willing non-government organizations that have put these voices together, we remain committed and available to all the politicians, be it you're in position, be it you assume office the next day, to interrogate, to build your capacities, to make you internalize and appreciate why these sectors are of great importance in our development journey as a country. Thank you very much.
give Mr. Beyin another round of applause. Thank you so much. I was noting a few things when you said community development agreements. I'm like, okay, I think now we're moving there. But when you talked about, you know, not paying royalties to the communities, and I think that can be a potential area for conflict moving ahead. So now we're going to have a panel discussion. I'm going to invite Mr. Magara Siraj, who is the Extractive Industries Coordinator at OXFAM, and also a member of Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, to come and lead the panel discussion. You'll have to respect time. After him, we shall have political party leaders have a panel discussion. Candidates and parties commit themselves to the citizens' voices that you have heard. So please allow me now to hand the microphone to Siraj to carry forward. And please remember to respect time, because we seem not to be doing well in terms of time.
Thank you so much, Kamara, for temporarily handing over to me and for the kind introduction. Once again, my name is Magara Siraj. I'm the Extractives Industry Coordinator at OXFAM in Uganda. At the same time, I'm the civil society representative on the Extractives Industry Initiative multi-stakeholder group. Aware that in August this year, Uganda finally signed on to this very important initiative that will foster transparent and efficient governance of our extractives. And as we talk now, activities are in high gear to make sure that we produce the first report concerning our extractives in the next 1.5 years. We are given 18 months to produce the first report, so that the opaqueness that has been existing in the extractive sector will be normal, but the most important thing is how every one of us is going to participate. You are aware that Article 38 of our Constitution roots for citizens' participation. So we are not participating as a way of kubaba chewagula, no. We are mandated by the Constitution to participate on the goings-on of every affair in our country. And therefore, in times like this, when we know that Uganda is rooting for leaders, the policy makers who are going to take over the governance of this country, I think it is very important that we create this debate in a way of doing our responsibility of participating in the governance of our country. And that's the very reason why, as people who are interested in the proper and better governance of extractives in our country, to make sure that we are able to generate enough resources and equitably and fairly distribute these resources to the benefit of all. That's why we have to raise concerns to these important people of our nation, especially the politicians who I know are in the House, and are taking note of whatever we are doing. So with me is the people themselves, the citizens. The people you see here are representatives of citizens, the ones we used to collect the information, and we went to them and picked the information. And we are bringing them to you. You listen firsthand from them, because they are the ones with the issues. What exactly do they want to be done? And the panel has been introduced already. We have Ms. Elizabeth Vyarugaba. She is the coordinator, Women in Mining. When we talk about inclusive development, inclusivity, no one should be left behind. So that's why when we talk about mining, then the issue of women, young people, all those could be there. And on the panel, you also must be able to see that we have a number of young people. So we want voices from everywhere. So she's a practicing miner. She's a miner from Mubende and leading the women movement in mining. She's going to tell you what exactly do they need as women.
We have J.B. Butcher. Yes, is the chairperson of Uganda Association of Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining. We have seen that we can have Ugandans, you talk about local content. Instead of having foreigners coming and taking all of the lion's share of this industry, we can have our local people empowered to take up the sector. And he's the chairperson of that group, the ones who are trying to extract gold, extract tin, extract. He's going to tell us what exactly does he need from his government, the one which is here or the one which is going to assume power. We have a young person who is from the oil community, Businge Michael. He is going to tell us that perspective. What exactly do they need in the oil region? Is from Hoima, is it still an oil city? What is lacking? How can they be involved? And is going to do us justice. We have Miss Sophie Chagulanyi Hajat. She's the Governance and Accountability Manager at OXFAM, overseeing these important programs regarding extractives to make sure that there is proper governance of extractive sector. And she's one of the people that have been leading this research, the manifesto that is before us. We have Miss Carol Nakajubi. She works with Action Aid International as in the extractives governance department, and she does a lot of work with communities. So she's going to tell us during her role at Action Aid, what exactly does she find as the most important community issues that need to be addressed by the political group. And finally, we have Mr. Robert Baganda Twesje. She's the coordinator of Publish What You Pay Uganda, and she's going to tell us how efficiently can we manage our resource in terms of being transparent, being accountable, and equitable in that sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have 4 minutes for each panelist because time is of essence. And we are going to be going straight because women first. I think you agree with me, and they are the mothers of the nation. So I will run to Elizabeth to set for us the pace. We know that women have a number of concerns regarding the mining industry. They are the ones who are always doing the panning of gold. They are the ones exposed to mercury. They are the ones doing the periphery work that is not well payable alongside other patriarchal issues. What exactly are you asking the politicians to do for the women to make sure that they are effectively included and we can see them jump-starting our economy? Mic is challenging.
It's clear now. Thank you. I think this is also clear. Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Vyarugaba. I am a woman miner. I am a member of the Association of National Women in Mining. I'm also a spokesperson for Miners Forum. Miners Forum bring together all license holders, especially those affected by the presidential ban on mineral export. First of all, I would like to say something to the organizers and everyone who put in an effort to draft this manifesto. For every minute that you spent drafting this, you created a job. For every minute that you spent drafting this, over 10% of this population entirely rely on the mining sector. You bridged the gap of the unemployment. You gave confidence to the ASM sector that is almost 90% of what the mining industry is. I will not speak on behalf of the petroleum because we are into mining and the big number of us belong to the ASM sector. Going back to this, what I have to say from the side of the women in mining, luckily I am into the gold industry and we still smuggle. I will say we still smuggle because if you ask what we extract and how we take it out, you cannot find that record anywhere. So luckily we are still smuggling. But our colleagues in the 3T, all the way from Chisoro, are not anywhere at all allowed to export. The presidential ban on mineral export does not guarantee the value addition. You cannot ask any investor to come up and set up a multi-billion-dollar smelter because you put a ban on an export. If at all the value addition made sense, then it would have been a business opportunity that any smelter would have taken long time ago. So it doesn't make sense. And by enforcing on a ban, you're closing out the opportunities that Uganda would benefit. I don't think minerals have got borders. We are the first country to successfully put up borders on minerals. Minerals are traded all over. Minerals are moving across continents, but Uganda, we successfully closed Congo from even using our airport to export minerals because we cannot differentiate what is coming in from our neighbors. We cannot tell what is coming from Sudan and Tanzania and Kenya, so we closed everything. And we see that as a way of getting in a smelter. There is no guarantee that any value adder will ever think of investing in an economy where we didn't even do exploration to declare our reserves. Countries that are more developed with more better infrastructure are exporting raw materials, marble, granite. To date, all our kitchen tops with granite that is coming in from India, but our country is insisting we have to add value. Add value on what? To which level? There is nowhere any document that guides anyone on what should be added to what. I challenge anyone from DGSM to present any document that clearly says you add to which on what. When it comes to vocational institutes, they are teaching tailoring, they are teaching catering, they are teaching hospitality, they are teaching saloon. There is no vocational institute that is anywhere teaching mining. But we are still blamed for not taking care of an environment. We are still blamed for using rudimentary tools. Yet there is nowhere we're being guided. From time memorial in our country, there is nothing, there is nowhere to learn from, there is no one to learn from. We are creating our own pace. In the gold mine, I should tell you that it's very funny when you find people testing locks using tongue. How do you test gold using your tongue? Because we do not have anywhere to be even told this is the route to use to know whether there is gold. In Mubende a few months back, we spent a lot of money digging holes where there was no mineral because we cannot tell, we cannot even interpret the geomaps. We can't tell anything, but we have to move the sector.
I need to engage you here because the time is running very fast, but there are critical issues. You talk about value addition. I don't know whether we have the finances to do that and whether the government has been doing that. You will educate us on that. And then women, as they do their work. The previous presenter alluded to the issue of finance. Are they, is it true they don't have finances? How exactly do they engage? And what are you asking the politicians
Let me answer that.
Yes.
What we do in the mining sector, you borrow agriculture on and you take it to mining because our government is willing to risk with the agriculture sector, but they're not willing to risk with us in mining. That's why we access our finances. When it comes to value addition, it's high time we thought largely for, as a government, to lobby in partners. Our country is strategically located in a way that we can have a market souk. A market souk, a gold market souk is a hall that you bring in everyone. Dubai does that. You're able to bring in jewelry, you're able to bring in retail and wholesalers, and that's something that we're strategically located as a country and capable of doing. If we were not interested in politics other than an economy.
Yes, you are going to hold it there, Elizabeth, because we are running short of time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I will give you more minutes. But one important issue, very, very important, that we need to pick from here. First of all, you are aware that we got capitalization of UDB to a tune of $1 trillion plus. And when you go to UDB and you want financing the oil and gas sector, the mineral sector, it's not there. It's mainly agriculture and business and other stuff. And we are wondering why strategically government may not put a portion for such groups so that there is that credit tailored specifically to help. As she says, government can risk and put money in agriculture, but they cannot risk to put money in that to be accessed by the artisanal and small-scale miners. I don't know in the current MIOGA whether artisanal are part of that. And that's what we are interrogating. How is government particularly taking up issues of mining and extractives to make sure that our locals are involved? I think we are going to expound that by going to Butcher, being the leader of the mineral sheikhs, the ones who are extracting these minerals from the ground. Do you think that you are okay? You are doing your work very well? What is this that you are missing as you try to undertake this noble responsibility to engage in the mining?
Thank you so much, Bwana Moderator. I am Bukia John Bosco, the chairperson of the Uganda Association of Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners, which has established functional structures all over the country, in all the regions of this country. Before I answer your question, Mr. Moderator, I want to, first of all, give our candidates the background before I go to what you told me to answer.
You manage time, please.
I manage time very well. Our challenge in Uganda is lack of government's recognition of artisanals and small-scale miners. I'll begin with that. We, the artisanals and small-scale miners of Uganda, need a government that will recognize us, that will recognize our businesses, that will help us to improve our businesses, because we are all aware that if ASMs in Uganda are well managed, they can be very effective towards the economic growth of this country. We need, actually, our major aim for today is to inform our candidates what we need. It has not been rocket science to derive at what Mr. Don has presented to us. It was simply a consultative approach throughout the country. We came up with the issues of the miners, and these are the issues we want to articulate directly to our candidates and parties that are contesting for power in the forthcoming regime. We need a government that will create a favorable and conducive political environment for ASMs to operate successfully in this country. We can take a look at the President of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli, whose government has really tried to create a very conducive environment. And when you go to Tanzania, you'll find that the ASMs are actually operating successfully and effectively, and they're also contributing to the national coffers of Tanzania. The challenge has been that the ASMs are not organized. Sometimes I ask myself, whose responsibility is it to organize the Ugandans in this sector?
And the answer is usually government. Therefore, we need a government that will combine with us to organize all the ASMs in this country so that they can carry out their businesses legally and effectively. The Uganda Association of Artisan and Small-Scale Miners has organized ASMs, but we still have those ASMs that are not yet organized, and that's why we need a government that will support us to do that. The issue of recognition of ASMs in this country has been a challenge. Not until last year, around 2019, when the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development recognized to some extent the ASMs. And I would like to report that some of the ASMs now, because of that recognition by government through the ministry, have been issued with the location licenses and exploration licenses. To me, that is positive. Because the Department of Mineral Development has existed for the last 99 plus something years, because they're about to celebrate 100 years. But if you asked the achievement of the ministry for the ASMs, it might only have appeared last year, 2019, when they started recognizing ASMs. So to me, this is a bit positive. But we need a government that will recognize us further. I'm also happy that today, the civil society organizations that have been advocating for miners without us, today have changed the approach. They are advocating for us with us. And I think we need to clap for them. Because there is no way you can advocate for us, the artisanals and small-scale miners, without us. And we are so telling the governments that want to come in power, the parties and the candidates, that you cannot talk about ASMs in your government without us. The development partners have helped us to organize most of these salient issues that were presented by Dawn, and we want a government that will recognize these concerns. Lastly, in the interest of time, in conclusion, our support as artisanals and small-scale miners in this country will entirely depend on the attitude of that party, of that candidate, towards our cause or towards our struggle. And this is very serious. We need, in conclusion, we need a government that will provide a conducive environment for effective, efficient, and inclusive development of the mining and petroleum sector. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Those are miners. For us, we are civil society, so we don't know how to repeat those words. But I know they are serious voters, and they have their issues, and I'm sure the political contenders are taking down the notes. But most importantly, is asking for a favorable and conducive environment. The ingredients of the favorable and conducive, I think that could be another debate, but that's the blanket statement now, that we need favorable and conducive. Thank you so much. Another big applause for Butcher. Now, going to the young people, we look at issues to do with participation. Are young people participating more so from the oil and gas activities? We are aware that these absolute revenues that we are generating or we are to generate from the petroleum is not the only benefit we expect. But the holistic participation is very, very critical, because that's where actually much of the value is going to be generated. As we stand now, how are we participating in the sector? Are we wholly involved? Do we have challenges? Are we sidelined? More so speaking from the point of view of the Albertine region. Over to you, Businge.
Thank you, Mr. Siraj. My name is Michael Businge, and I've lived and worked with communities in the oil-rich region in Unyoro, particularly in Hoima. You asked about participation. We still have challenges with participation, basically because if you are to participate, you have to have something to talk about. If someone brings, for instance, the oil companies bring something on table, you also have to talk to them. But you find that sometimes there is limited information about key issues, about key activities taking place in the area. A case in point is about, I would talk about the environmental social impact assessments. These are technical issues. These are technical things which they bring onto table, and sometimes in the language which is too technical, and it limits the effective participation of the youth. It limits the effective participation of the women. Talking about also about women participation, when do you engage the women? The times of engagement, especially the local women. Are you going to engage them like at this time? You will not see them. You will find men. When you are to engage the women, it's better you engage them like in the afternoon. That's when they will have finished the cooking, the house chores, the digging and all that. But if you are to organize a community engagement like at this time, no way. So you have to look into them.
Maybe we think, I'm interested as a very serious player. How are youth groups involved in the oil and gas industry? Are they supplying companies? Do we have some youth groups that are supplying tomatoes, that are supplying maybe fish from Lake Albert to the oil companies? How exactly is the population and the communities benefiting from the activities in the oil sector? How many groups have you organized and doing that?
The youth are not supplying yet. One of the things is limited capital to engage in these ventures because the oil and gas industry is a capital-intensive industry. It requires a lot of capital. Then two, it requires skills, standards. Our standards are still limited, they are still low. They haven't been up there, if you would allow me to use such a word. They haven't been up there. And also, Mr. Magara, you would allow me also to highlight on the issue of vocation and business trainings as a mode of skilling the youth so that they can be able to participate in the sector. So you realize that there is no clear path of the young people from these institutions to be channeled to the industry in form of doing internships or apprenticeship and all that in the sector. By this, if they were offered apprenticeship to offer their skills, they would gain the necessary expertise and also engage. Also, to conclude, I would also want to dwell on the issue of the negotiation skills. We still have, especially the young people, still have low capacity to negotiate with their oil companies on given agreements that they come about with. And you find that here they will input less in the CSR policies for the companies, you will find that the company has come up with very good lawyers, with very good documents and all that. But the input of the local people, of the young people, to those documents is limited.
Yeah, thank you so much, Singe. So what I pick from here, I think the government in the waiting that is going to come needs to organize all the interest groups, the youth, to make sure that they are able to deal with the oil companies without being marginalized, because if they don't have very excellent lawyer and this local person is signing a contract with the company, that may really not be good enough. But he also alludes to the issue of capital. These are young people who may not, first of all, have the capital to do whatever they are supposed to do, to generate what they are supposed to supply to companies. At the same time, the issue of skills and the certification. So if the government that will come in place is able to do that, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much, Usinge, for those deliberations. We go to Robert. Robert works with Publish What You Pay, and these are interested in transparency and accountability of revenues that accrue from extractives. And I know they are supporting a lot of work on EITI. They are doing a lot of work on making sure that there is advocacy on proper management of revenues that accrue from these resources. What are those 1, 2, 3 things, Robert, that you think you are asking politicians to deal with going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siraji. This is not me asking, but in our interaction with the citizens are asking one important question to the next coming government. The citizens are asking the government that wants to take power to remove all the barriers and the barriers that hinder transparency and accountability in oil and gas and mining sector. And this involves the laws. If they move the laws that hinder transparency and accountability, institutions, you've had some institutions, there are some individuals that hinder the development of the transparency in this sector. So the citizens are saying all of these, the government that wants their vote should remove all of these because they are the ones who are responsible for the loss of the monies in this sector. So that's what the citizens are saying, and they are saying that this coming government should have a clear plan on how it's going to do this. The citizens are saying that for the next 5 years, the business should not be as usual, the way it has been, because as you have heard in the previous speakers, they have said we have immense resources. And if they can be exploited very well and the revenues managed very well, this country can be developed and employment can end, we can have good infrastructure and social services. So the citizens are saying, they are telling government, the next government to have a clear plan, an unusual plan, not a normal plan, that will remove some of the licensed vendors, some of the smugglers, and all other people who are operating in darkness and benefiting on behalf of others.
Robert, you talk on smugglers. I want to take you on that. We know a government should have implemented the regional certification mechanisms, and we know that could help the smuggling you are talking about. What exactly are you telling government about the regional certification mechanisms that could help streamlining the minerals side?
Yes, the regional certification mechanism is one of the important issues, especially that was proposed at the International Conference of the Great Lakes region, and the Ugandan government signed to it, to that pact, and they committed themselves to implementing that, and it has the progress so far has been very slow, although in 2017 the Parliament adopted the Act. The citizens, what we are talking about, what we are telling the government is actually not only about regional certification mechanism. We are talking about implementing transparency and accountability standards, including the regional certification mechanism, including the EITI, but all and other transparency standards that will lead to proper governance of this sector. So the issue is about doing things not in a usual way, because the citizens are saying if we operate the way we have been operating, we are going to lose employment, but we are also going to lose a lot of money, and we are having few people benefiting on behalf of us, or even outsiders benefiting on our behalf.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for those wonderful issues that you are raising. A very big applause for Robert, especially rooting for transparency and accountability. That's very, very important, because the resources are for all of us, and therefore it is important that whatever comes in we are able to know, and whatever goes out we are also able to know, and that way we shall really put a lot of confidence in our leaders. We are coming to Sophie. Sophie, I know you cannot give the discussion without talking about human rights. Whereas a lot of activities are going on, we need to exploit the oil and gas, we need to mine, we need to do ABC, people are being displaced for East African crude pipeline, they are being displaced for the refinery. What are those issues that are not going right that you think the coming government should really put into consideration to make sure that as we do all this, the rights and freedoms of people are enhanced?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And indeed, as you've said, the economic potential to maximize as a country should not come at the expense of our enjoyments of human rights. I want to talk about two particular human rights here: land and environment. And it's important because this is the game changer for our next set of political leaders. And if you miss this, trust me, you will not see yourselves in the next 2026, 2022. Because this is what citizens are asking for. On land, citizens are saying that the current land acquisition and assessments and the whole compensation is marred by several things. Of course, land is going to be acquired to ensure that we develop the mineral and petroleum resources. But as we acquire this land, there are different aspects that are legislative in nature that you need to tighten. These aspects have created a lot of confusion, especially for communities that are resource rich and will be rendering their land available for us to develop the resources. There are also shortcomings in assessments of land, but also the valuations in land. The shortcomings render many of those that should adequately be compensated not to be compensated. And you find that the land compensation resources are ending up in the hands of those that should not be compensated. That's something that you need to check. But also, compensation is exceedingly delaying, and in the delay, it is causing a lot of speculations. Someone who should have been compensated in an adequate period of time ends up being compensated after a long period of time, and that period factors in components that reduce the livelihoods of that particular person who should have been compensated. So as we acquire land, let's factor in quicker compensation that should be adequate. Then there is limited transparency. And this is why many have talked about the speculation. The access to information on who should be compensated, how much they should be compensated, it varies district by district, but let's have a mechanism that allows people to know how much they'll be compensated and who will be compensated. I don't want to leave land without talking about the livelihoods of the people and their restoration, because as land is made available, there's destruction on livelihoods, and if it's not restored, believe you me, after the compensation, after the settlements have shifted and moved, we'll see a large population that is affected by livelihoods, and it will come back to haunt on the economics. On the aspect of environment, you all know that we've so far concluded several environment and social impact assessments as a country. And these have informed us on the glaring gaps around the environment that we need to take into stock as we conclude the licensing and also the approval processes of the different stakeholders that are going to be involved. However, we are also cognizant of the fact that there are different ecosystems that are going to be affected by our development of the natural resources. As our next set of leaders, we need you to tread carefully in the aspect of environment, in the context of developing our natural resources. As countries, I think it's important for us to guarantee for citizens that we'll have a clean and healthy environment, even when we develop our natural resources. It should not be at the expense of this. So, as we go on taking forward the economic potential and maximizing it, we shouldn't forget the aspects around environment and our right to enjoyment of a clean and healthy environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. A very big applause. And I'm not going to repeat Howard's. They are very, very clean and straight to the point. Let's go to Carol. Carol works with ActionAid. And they do a lot of work on gender, communities, ASM, a lot. Particularly, we can pick your mind on what is missing regarding inclusion, regarding gender, regarding participation, and that now will bring in the local content issues. What exactly is missing that should be addressed by these political leaders?
Thank you very much, Siraji. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Just to kind of avoid repeating myself, but to majorly reinforce some of the things that have been said, key things, and dear politicians, like Sophie said, now this is also the game changer. Participation, inclusion of people in this extractives industry sector. The time has come for us to realize, to understand, and contribute to the fact that this extractives industry sector has a great potential to transform and contribute to socio-economic development. 3 issues. 1 is limited access to information. The information that is there is not adequate. We want adequate, relevant, and timely information to these communities so that they are able to access these benefits and opportunities. What can be done to that, about that is decentralize the governance of the mining and or petroleum sectors. Right now, as we speak, most of the information, the relevant, the one that is needed, is still concentrated at national level, in the central government. But we need district local governments, right from the local and the lower local governments, to be aware about what is happening in a timely manner so they can transform this to the local communities. In that way, people will know where are the opportunities, how do they access jobs, how do they help themselves register to the national suppliers database, how do they actually touch these benefits that are still hanging in air. The other is about limited skills. Yes, people want to access, people want to be able to benefit, people want to be able to supply goods and services, but the skills are not there, the standards set in place are not achievable, the sector is highly demanding. And the other thing is about, also even though if it's employment, they do not have the skills to directly engage in the sector. The youth, the women are interested, but somehow the hope is even going down. What are we requesting for? Establish specialized public vocational training institutions that are able to train people to access, to be able to benefit and access to these opportunities. And to that, they can be there, but they could as well be expensive for people to be able to get into them. Provide bursaries. That is one of the things that we want you to push for. The other thing is about access to credit. Recently, ActionAid conducted a rapid assessment to understand the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the sector. And most interesting of all was about the lack of access to credit. these sectors are highly capital intensive. The ASMs want to, the different levels are different opportunities that these people can engage in to be able to benefit from such sectors, but they don't have access to credit. And recently we're doing an economic recovery kind of initiatives that these communities can use. And the issue of Emyoga wanted to reinforce. There are around 17 listed small and medium enterprises that government recognizes that can access, are eligible to access some of these funds, and mining is not there. And it is a bit surprising, although it can be innovative, but even the districts advise the miners to actually pose as farmers associations or saloonists, the people who have saloons, or poultry farmers, to be able to access some of these funds and then invest them in the mining. That is something that needs to change. So I still call out for the recognition, for the inclusion of mining into these listed SMEs. I'm about to finish, Magara. The other is also you politicians, upcoming leaders, to help us that the microfinance institutions can provide credit and cheap credit to these miners to be able to develop the sector. So from me, that is it for now.
Thank you, Carol. A very big applause, loud and clear. The issues are there, and particularly we want to make sure that even ASMs are part of the planning. As we plan for ABC, then mining is there, oil and gas is there, and that way we should be able to improve. These people are putting a lot of issues which I'm sure you are being tickled. You are being tickled to say a word. However, I don't expect politicians to speak now, because they are going to come here to speak to us when they are up front here. So the politicians, I kindly beg that all you want to say, you will say it when you come on the panel. In the interest of time, we are going to have citizens speaking and reinforcing or asking or supplementing on what the panelists have been able to elaborate, and we should be able to, if there is any response they have to make, they will make it, then we go to the next session of the politicians. Someone has to help me to move the mic. I need support from someone who can help me move the mic. Yes, there is someone behind raising the hand, and you have 1.5 minutes to shoot your comment.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is John Igumera, a public relations officer for Isha's Livestock Farmers Magazine. I am a farmer. Farming and mining or petroleum, these things go hand in hand. They have to support each other. I've liked Carol's submission for Action Aid Uganda. A farmer or a livestock farmer who is under SMEs, how can we surely work with you? This is a livestock farmers organization that still goes into deep mining, because these are two things that work hand in hand. But we have surely failed, completely failed, to get into your table, discuss how we can work together, go down, help the youth. The youth of Uganda, we are crying of poverty, but still it is agriculture that will get us out of poverty. It is mining that will get us out of poverty. So how prepared are you to come on board, look for these agricultural sectors, these agricultural farmers organizations, work with them, and at least help the youth, help the country, and help the nation? It's not politics that will help this country. It's not politics that will take us out of poverty. It is us, the farmers, working with you, the miners or the petroleum. So we want to see that bond created. We want to see that gap broken. We want to come together. How prepared are you? For purposes of record,
point clearly noted.
For purposes of record, once again, my name is John Igumera. Thank you.
Point noted. Point noted, because in the first place, if we are talking about supplies in the petroleum sector, they are supplying agricultural products to the mining and the oil companies. So the linkage is definitely very much important. Yes, I'm taking this, and this. Yeah, you can start on that, then you bring the mic here.
Thank
1
you.
minute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Siraj, for this opportunity. I'm Dickens Amanya, coordinator of New Albertine Petroleum Network on Environmental Conservation, but now I'm talking as a citizen of Uganda. One, we want a commitment from the government in the pipeline towards EITI processes, because joining is different and remaining and adhering to the standards is also different. Two, it is, I think, the existing political structure in question that has led to the mushrooming administrative units. And when you look at petroleum and mining, we don't have substantive officials, technical officials in these offices. A case in point, the district natural resources officers, the environment, senior environmental officers, senior water officers are nowhere. And in case of any emergency, for example, like an oil spill, we don't have the technical people in the respective host districts. So can we enhance the skills and capacity of the respective host districts? Then we need thorough stakeholder engagement, especially during land acquisition, livelihood restoration programs. For example, during financial literacy trainings, we've been out in the communities, but communities complain of the short time allocated during these processes. So as the government coming, can we ensure that these communities have been given adequate time during these livelihood restoration programs? Then lastly, we want to see ministries, departments, and agencies exercise a high degree of separation of powers. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanya. Here, the mic should come here. Kindly use 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I'm Manuel Chivirige. I'm the National Coordinator of the Uganda Association of Artisanal Small-Scale Miners. To the politicians, we have a big number. We have over 400,000 ASMs in Uganda and actively mining. So this is it's a request to you, especially those that are coming in those busy mining regions of Mubende, Bukuya, Buweju, Ntungamo, Busia, Tira, Karamoja. Make sure you engage with the ministry that the miners get legalized and formalized. Formalized and legalized. In Mubende and Bukuya alone, right now I can confidently say we can influence the vote. You need to go through, you have to come through our association. Because we're employing over 4,000 people on one site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chivirige. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Siraj. My name is Muganza Ronald, Coordinator Skilling for UGAZIM. And my point here goes on the clarification on the skilling. If you try to find that most of the artisanals are left out in the skilling part, this issue, since it has been noted by one of the presenters there, I think it should be taken as something very serious, because most of these artisanals are people who just come to the job purposely just to try and make ends meet. But I think with the proper setups by the ministry and also the politicians here, I think we need to put more emphasis on the skilling. Recently, we are glad that we took a step where we had an MOU that we signed between UGAZIM and Busitema. It was a step, but I would not want this to end here. The vocational institutes should be set up and let the government and politicians follow up on this. We shall be glad if the participants in the artisanals sector are included. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other? Is there? 1 minute, then the last one.
Yeah, thank you. I'm called Ella de Miambi, and my issue to the candidates and political parties is on the issue of addressing the middlemen, labor failures. In fact, for me, when you bring someone, like if you hear someone dealing in gold now, and someone has a deal of gold, me, I will just run away because I will know that those ones are they just want to steal your money. Then another issue is on the issue of managing the oil waste. When I talked to his neighbor, they said they were going to put the oil waste in Nakasongola. But I can assure you, I don't know whether what they will do in Nakasongola, but these oil companies, they have no plan of how they will manage the waste that will be generated. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. The final comment behind, then there is one. Okay, there is one final and another one final. Two final comments.
Thank you very much. In developing this sector and ensuring that we harvest for sharing with the world. Because most of these minerals are not everywhere in the world. They are only isolated, God-given, and government should take that comparative advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, it has been addressed? Oh, great. Thank you so much for these valuable and precious comments. And many of them are not even questions, but they are a bit of guidance, bit of comments. But in the way of wrapping up, I'm going to have only two representatives from the panelists, because in the interest of time, one from the citizens and miners, and that is Butcher, and here maybe Sophie will represent, to make sure that we have two reactions from you. Then we go to the next session, which Kamara has to manage. Butcher, we'll use 1.5 minutes to make a wrap-up, and Sophie.
Thank you very much, Bwana Moderator. I am happy that today we are going to launch our Citizens Manifesto on mining and oil industry. I request the candidates present here with us to take us as a serious group that you must reckon with in order to manage the affairs of the mining sector and oil sector successfully in this country. You need us, and you must consider our issues as presented in our manifesto, and we shall make a follow-up of these manifestos. And I urge all the miners in this country, wherever you are, don't vote for a candidate who has not talked at least on one of the issues within our manifesto, because we need leaders that are for us. We need leaders that will work for us. And finally, I would like all the miners present in this hall to stand up for recognition, right from Karamoja to Chistoro. Stand up and wave to the candidates. We are many out there, and we have been ably represented on the launch. I thank the organizer.
Thank you, miners, for coming all the way from Karamoja, Mubende, Chigezi, to come and do this important, noble responsibility of talking to our politicians. We are going to get the final comment from Sophie.
So in terms of wrap-up, the state and citizen relationship has aspects that include representation, which is going to be a key factor for the next set of leaders. But as you represent citizens, the idea is that you definitely have a constituency that informs you of the issues they want you to present and use your political power over to change. This citizens launch gives you an opportunity to at least hear what the miners and those that are in resource-rich areas, including petroleum, need to see in the next set of 5 years. We believe that their voices will be well represented if you stick to the issues that we have told you, and many more issues will be coming as you engage in the different aspects of your leadership. We are available to keep creating platforms for you, politicians and the citizens, to continue this discourse, for you to even get more issues, because as you know, things keep changing, and for you to create a relationship. It is that relationship that will foster accountability, and it is that relationship that will grow you as leaders. I'm sure many of you would be coming in as new political leaders, maybe, but even the old political leaders, it's important that you invest time, energy and resources in understanding these citizens' issues and also presenting them rightly. We are aware that this particular sector is technical in nature, and many issues go unaddressed and undialogued on simply because of the technicalities involved. But with your relationship you'll be creating with citizens, it will ease even what you present before different political spaces that you'll be in, and how you use your political power to make the political decisions. We need laws to be reviewed, we need laws to be changed, and new laws to be enacted to ensure that these issues are addressed. Come 2026, we are evaluating your performance, we are holding you accountable, we should have something to show. And this engagement will continue. As the miners are telling you, also people from petroleum resource-rich areas are also telling you the same thing. Let's start a very fruitful engagement that will foster a good relationship between the state, who you're representing as political leaders, and us, the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Very big applause. Finally, from me, much as I'm a moderator, I have intuition when it comes to revenue management, because it will defeat the purpose for us to gather all the monies, and this money does not really serve the purpose. We get the resource curse. One of the key issues that we are finding a problem is the way the petroleum fund is being managed. We are aware that our law, Public Finance Management Act, is devoid of a fiscal rule that would help in managing the politicians' appetite to spend all the money. When the petroleum money comes to the petroleum fund, according to the law, part of that money is supposed to go to the Petroleum Revenue Investment Reserve, and part of it is supposed to be put to the consolidated fund to support the budget. But as we've talked now, even when we have received substantial amount of revenues ever since the oil activities started, the petroleum fund, as Don said, is depleted, just because the law is not explicit on how much should be spent in the consolidated fund and how much should be put in the investment reserve. Currently, nothing is going on the side of the investment reserve, and contrary to the law, because it should have been clear that maybe 2% or 5% should be sent to the investment reserve, and maybe the remainder should be spent. But as we talk, it is open, and government loves spending, so they can easily spend and leave nothing, and that is very, very risky for the management. We are likely to see some poor practices coming in and affecting the way how. Then the other issue is how are we utilizing the money in the first place? The law says we are supposed to use money not for recurrent expenditure, but for development of infrastructure. And we see infrastructure in Uganda has only been limited to roads and maybe Bombardier. So when are we saying that there is equity in only having roads? What about these people who have no cars and are not enjoying the roads? Are we putting up very good schools for them? Are we putting up very good health care system, hospitals and the like, so that there is equity? When you enjoy a Bombardier, another one in Karamoja is also enjoying a very good #1 health center and #1 education facility. All those equity issues also have to be addressed in terms of how we manage our resources, particularly to eliminate the resource curse. Thank you so much. You have been a wonderful audience, and a very big applause to the panelists. A very big applause to the audience and to the moderator for the session. I now hand over to Kamara to manage the next session. Thank you so much.
Give the panelists another round of applause as they take their seats. Thank you so much. There's something that I picked when they say that in most cases civil society organizations are talking about them without them. But this time around they are talking about them with them. So I think that's very key, because sometimes people may think they are making a lot of sense and yet you are not available, but here you are included. I thought I should highlight that. And I remember there's one colleague here who said that when you say I'm into mining or gold, that for him he wants to stand away. And when they introduced people who are involved in the mining, I almost saw everybody standing up. I wonder what went in your mind, what you thought about that. When you saw people around you, everybody was a gold dealer almost, a miner. Okay, now we have people who have been going around our country telling us they can change our lives because they want a mandate to lead. 2021, 2026, we have politicians who are seeking that mandate. Some of them have flowery manifestos. They always look good, and in most cases, manifestos look the same. But we, the people, the citizens in the sector of mining and petroleum, have also our own manifesto. Maybe it will make their job easier. Perhaps they can just incorporate, make it better, but I don't think they are going to disregard. So now we have the opportunity to listen to the people who are representing the different political parties, to give us their commitments to the citizens' voices. And so I'm going to invite one by one party representatives to take positions here, and I'll give each one of them 2 minutes to make their case, and after that we shall have a plenary. I know these are different political parties, and you're not going to agree, and it's healthy never to agree, but I'm going to ask you to disagree with respect, even though you come from different political ideologies. So may I invite from the NRM party, the representative of the NRM party, to come and take your seat. A representative of the NRM party. I don't have particular names of people who should be on the panel, but I have the parties here. So I'm going to be calling representatives, and I can imagine they must have sent somebody they chose who should ably represent them. The National Resistance Movement Party, I'm inviting you to take your seat. I know you are a mass party and you have so many, perhaps you are still agreeing on who should come. So let me go to another. From the Alliance for National Transformation, may we have a representative from the Alliance for National Transformation. The way how I'm seeing these masks, there are very many people. Okay. Yes, please. Mr. Nyanja Musoke, please take your seat. Okay. And from the National Unity Platform, NUP. From the National Unity Platform, NUP. Can we get a representative from NUP? Thank you very much. And from the Democratic Party, Uganda's oldest party, can we get a representative? And from the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, can we get a representative from FDC? The Forum for Democratic Change. From the Forum for Democratic Change? Okay, round of applause, you have a representative. You know, in this election we have so many independent candidates, including even at parliamentary level. So I'm going to I don't know if you have all the independents, but maybe somebody to represent the independent candidates. The independent candidates. This is the last boarding call for the NRM. Then another call from a representative of the NRM. A representative of the NRM. Javier and Francis, you didn't invite NRM? A volunteer. But will you, I hope you'll ably represent, because we don't want to be accused when you don't ably get into the shoes of NRM. Okay. Is that okay, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Please. But you know that there are going to be a lot of accountability issues. You have a lot to say, and your job is very weighty in this discussion. So your volunteering job is going to be very hard. I suppose. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Let me begin, I think, in this order, like they are seated here, with the Forum for Democratic Change, with your party's commitment to the citizens' voices. There's a sanitizer there. You could sanitize your hands, and then I've done it.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I not go too much in details because we haven't officially launched our manifesto, so I'm not at liberty to go deep into what we are going to do about mining and petroleum, because I may know what is there, but I'm not at liberty to disclose it. So I will just comment as any Ugandan. I noted with concern when my brothers and sisters who are up here. My name is Achikonyogo John, the deputy spokesperson of FDC. They were telling us if you don't do ABCD, we may not give you the votes. But I've been watching what was happening in what has been happening in the US. I would have expected you to have lobbied us long time ago also, that this is what you want in your manifesto. Many of those big companies, lobby parties, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and when they get into power, we know what to do. We may have our ideas, but you have also your ideas. My brother who presented here first, I forget his name. I think he did a very good job. What I'm going to do is to take this manifesto to our research and policy committee and see what we can, how it can enrich what we have already done. We already have our own position, but I'm sure it will enrich what we have already done. It was well written. We thank you very much. And we shall do whatever we can so that the country benefits. What I can't promise you, people who are miners here, that we are going to do good things for you who are mining today. For us, we care what the country will get out of it. Even if it means you losing, who are here, but the country gaining, FDC will do exactly that, will forgive us. So as FDC, we intend to rewrite the Constitution so that the presidential powers are trimmed a bit. This business of the president waking up and removing the 5% tax and everybody loses, it will not happen when you are in power, sir. So, and even the way we use our petroleum fund, our president will not have the powers to do what he wants when you are in government. We have trimmed these powers so that work through institutions. So, Mr. Moderator, sir, I don't want to go too deep because we are going to launch our manifesto on the 26th next week. So everything will be disclosed to the public what you are going to do. But what I can promise you...
But on this manifesto, are you for us or you're not?
Of course, I'm for you 100%.
Okay.
Not for those ones who are mining today, that one I have to emphasize, but what the country is going to get out of mining, minerals, and petroleum products. I mean petrol. For us, we are going to do whatever we can so the country gains. Not individuals. We are sorry for you who are already doing the work. If we will be in our line, we'll be with you. If you are not, we are sorry some people may come in, maybe. But also you have to lobby. Come and campaign with us so that we get into power. Yes. Because before, you want us to do all the donkey work, and then you just come to gain after we have done the donkey work. Please, come and campaign with us. Sponsor us. Put in some money. Invest, please. Yes. Thanks very much, sir.
All right, thank you. You can extend the microphone to Lydia Njuba.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lydia Namayengo, and I'll speak on behalf of the National Unity Platform. As the National Unity Platform, we have already launched the manifesto that we are going to use when we take over power in 2021. And this manifesto, like you all heard, is actually rotating around 5 key issues. That is the first 5, which is actually the people-centered governance, equal access to quality education and health services, inclusive economic development, land, natural resources and environmental protection, and national security and international relations. And I'm very glad to say that this meeting today basically rotates around item number 4, which is about land, natural resources, and environmental protection. And basically towards this meeting, most of the contributions that have come from the different people, the artisan miners, the small-scale miners, and every other person around, rotating around the petroleum industry, the mining industry, and minerals, we actually have 4 key policies that are going to be handling all these issues. You'll be interested in reading about the NUP land policy, which is part of the manifesto. You'll be interested to read about the NUP domestic investment policy, the NUP environmental policy, the NUP gender policy, and the NUP education policy. So when somebody talks about key issues regarding providing bursaries to the people, enhancing public and vocational institutional training that is compulsory to all the people to ensure they can be able to gain skills, all those actually provided for in the National Unity Platform education policy. What we have set out specifically in terms of investment, in terms of mining, one of the key things that the NUP is actually providing for is regulating the mineral sector to empower the mineral owning communities. The communities, the people themselves, should be the first beneficiaries in the minerals that are actually coming out of the land. What the NRM government has done right now is to ensure that they have taken over all the minerals. When you go to Karamoja, gold mines are actually owned by the first family. The first lady is the owner of most of the land that is actually occupying the gold. You will find that the community, the people who are working in these communities and the areas, the citizens of these areas, are actually people who are not benefiting at all. They're either carrying out casual work, they're either carrying out normal pushing or sand carrying, but they never get to participate in the real activities of the gold mines. So sweeping away and taking away the rights, the mineral rights from the people who own the land in their community is one of the things that is actually affecting the mineral and the mining sector. So we think that if we can be able to regulate the mineral sector, to empower the mineral owning communities to be part of the people that are going to participate in gaining out of the minerals from their land, that is one of the key issues that is actually going to be able to be prioritized. And then the second thing is basically supporting domestic investment in innovation and SMEs. Domestic investments, where you've seen the artisan miners are actually going up to do so much. We have seen the small-scale miners trying a lot. So we want to see that we can be able to regulate, to empower, to support these domestic investors, because even a person who is an artisan miner is an investor as well. He's actually a local investor who's contributing towards the economy, the development of this economy in Uganda. So if you can come up and support these people through the domestic investment, through the people that we have been able to prioritize here and there, we can be able to come up here and another thing. And then the other thing is basically access to innovation fund. I have heard from the Citizens Manifesto, they cry about having the ASM, the Artisan Miners Fund. The Artisan Miners Fund, I think, in the NUP Manifesto is incorporated within the innovation funds. Everybody that is able to create something, artisan miners are creating jobs. While we are all crying about unemployment in this country, we are all crying about poverty in this country, I think that even artisan miners and small-scale miners are part of the people who have been innovative and creative to create employment. So it is our responsibility as any government that is coming into power to ensure that we can be able to support them through our innovation fund, to uplift their standards, to empower them to do what they actually have to do in the mining. Then the other thing, time? Yes. Okay, then the other thing is about providing an investment framework with investment incentives like energy rebates and tax holidays to the local investors as well. It will still come back to the artisan miners. Artisan miners are doing a lot, but what have we done? The NRM government has not been able to actually put up an investment framework to support the artisan miners. The only thing they do is put up regulation frameworks like the Mining Act 2003, which actually support the local people, but just takes away all the rebates, all the collections to the government, where we find that government is actually getting 80%, while citizens are only getting the 20%. So I want the reverse to be the other thing, the other way around, where we can see citizens being able to actually benefit from their hard work they have been able to include. Then maybe lastly is we have been able to ensure that the National Development Plan 3 corresponds with the NUP manifesto in terms of the oil and mineral sector by ensuring that section number 1, which is the people-centered governance, that talks about human rights protection, the rule of law, the constitutionalism, and protection as well as providing good governance. We have had so many artisan miners' human rights being abused. We have had so many of these being arrested. We have had so many of these being tortured. We have had so many of these being violated. We want to ensure that under the first sector of people-centered governance, to ensure that human rights of the citizens, human rights of the people being prioritized towards ensuring that they are coming first in this section. And then lastly, enhancing youth participation in the policy making and mining sector, as well as skilling of the young people and the women.
Thank you
the education
very much.
Policy.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Those are quite interesting propositions you're making. I hope Ugandans are taking care of that. And then they will be responding to you in terms of, I don't know whether votes or no votes, but I think it's a good effort. Okay, from FDC. No, sorry, Alliance for National Transformation. I beg your pardon. But they used to be relatives back in the day. Oh, okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nyanja Msoke. I represent the Alliance for National Transformation at this forum. Now, when I came in as a member of the Alliance, I noticed something was missing in this manifesto here. What is missing is that oil for Ugandans, not oil for anybody else. That the question of oil is very, very important. And Uganda's oil should belong to Ugandans. So oil for Ugandans, that is what the Alliance is emphasizing. And in our manifesto, energy as energy, we treat it as the life blood line of the nation. So we're not going to play around at the Alliance with the energy. You see, people don't seem to think that we are serious, but we are very serious. We have a big tree to cut down, and we have sharpened the axe to bring down that big tree. And when it comes down, we know that Ugandans have to put trust in us to change the order of things in this country, especially on matters that concern Uganda. Petroleum is energy. It is the lifeblood supply line to any nation. And that's why People like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi died because they were talking about the international community paying for oil in gold, not in dollars, not in paper money. Pay us in value added. And the alliance will not sit back to receive paper money. We shall ask for the right payment for our oil. What else do we want to look at? We want to Ugandans to understand that we will take a multi-sector approach to the question of oil. This has isolated the oil alone. But energy is bigger than oil. And I said earlier, it is a lifeblood supply line to a nation. So we need to put up cross-cutting policies on ownership, production, use, and distribution of energy. Those you don't sit down and come and talk about, just like that. You must be organized, you must plan them, and we have planned, and we are still planning. We don't just come and talk. We say things that we are serious about. So the people of Uganda, all we are asking for is put your trust in us to protect this very important natural resource called oil. I heard you talking about value addition to oil. Now, value addition involves technology. At the Alliance, we are saying technology is not given. Technology is taken. It is our program to grab technology and put it at disposal of Ugandans. Trust us. We shall give you the technology you need to utilize your energy resources for development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Onyik Dennis Wawire, representing presidential candidate Joseph Kiza Kavuleta. And I want to thank you all Ugandans for...
Bring it closer.
I want to thank you all Ugandans for your endeavors generally in the pursuit of having a better country. One thing that is actually of immense, deplorable, and absurd situation that is in Uganda right now is because you have clinged onto a government that has for 35 years not been producing anything, and yet in and out you've been voting it. Let's not deceive ourselves. The best lives we want start with us deciding to make a critical decision about the presidents we have to elect in office. I am representing presidential candidate Joseph Kiza Kavuleta, a man who has a heart for his country. Now, when we talk about the artisan and people in the mineral and oil and gas sector, we talk about all Ugandans, because at the end of the day, all the resources you get from this sector go up back to the people in the villages who are into farming, go back to the people who are into the school sector, who are into any other sector of government. Now, the will to have a formidable change has to start with you, the citizens, regardless of whatever sector you belong to. But just to note up one critical issue here, I have a person from the Association of Women in Mining, Elizabeth Biarugaba. She happened to note that one of the key issues she wanted us to deal with in the next coming government is to find that we get a lot of financing for this sector.
Now, the oil and gas sector in itself is very lucrative. But the challenge is that if we put the financing in that sector, will you people have the will to see that the resources we have given to you as Ugandans are put into a proper use? Our key issue is the will in you, Ugandans, to see that the country you want to be in is actually established. Other than that, all your requests, however good they might appear, will all not yield anything. They will not yield any positive result. They will not make a formidable change in your lives. Just forget about the 35 years of this government and have an opportunity to vote a government that will change your lives. So regardless of whatever sector you belong to, one thing, it has to be the will to change, to see a past that you don't like and to see a future that you like. And this starts by you changing the government and voting for us in the next coming government. Another issue I want to raise here is coming from Businje Michael from the Albertine region. This is a gentleman who raised an issue concerning skills and vocational training in the gas and oil sector. Now, right now, we are living into what we call a technological enhanced world. There is a lot of exposure of information on the internet that everybody can actually readily acquire. But the issue is, if you have a government which is going to tax you on OTT, limit your access to information, then you cannot be able to acquire the information that you need to know about the resources or the information about the minerals you're actually engaged in. So one thing we are going to do as the next coming government is to make sure that all these hurdles around the acquisition of information about oil and gas are limited. If you tax a platform on whom information can easily be availed to the citizen, then you limit them in the knowledge about that same information.
Okay.
So the use, one thing we are saying is that we are going to avail you with the platforms on which you can readily acquire the information that you want to be able to deal with these oil and gas sector problems. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
A vote for Kabuleta is a vote for financial liberation to all Ugandans.
Thank you very much. You have an NRM volunteer there. Almost everybody was critical about your party, but you still have only 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, moderator. Once again, my name is John Igumira. You know, I came here as an agriculturist, but it would be quite absurd not to represent the national resistance movement, the only political party in the country that has discovered, brought the oil, brought the mining that we are discussing here today with other political parties. And surely they need also first to realize this. We could not just let it go like that. This is the political party, it is the government that has brought all what we are discussing here tonight. So, recording, of course, our manifesto is already online. We were the first people to launch the manifesto. And our theme today is securing your future. Where are we targeting specifically? Even when if you checked through our manifesto, you will see that petroleum, oil and gas, or mining in general, is one of our key points to secure the future of this country, secure the future of the youth, secure the future of all citizens of this nation. Moderator, I want to inform you that as NRM political party, of course we are not policy makers. We are policy implementers. This is automatically true. As NRM, we are policy implementers. And others are thinking of policy making and what. We have thought about it. We have done the best thing I can tell you. I have to inform you that we have indeed, we are planning, and we have for almost several times planned to form revenue sharing programs for local communities that are dealing in mining, for them to benefit. We have to form the programs. Our manifesto said so. Forming the programs that the local miners can benefit from those programs. And this will only be done by the NRM political party. Moderator, implementing the policy, as I've said, will require us putting in place new legislation for oil and gas administration management of petroleum revenues. Yes, we agree. The management of revenues that have been coming from petroleum, the management has not been all that good. We agree on that. But we are saying, look, for this surge of securing our future, how can we put now the new management techniques to manage the revenues coming out from oil and petroleum so that we can indeed continue securing the future of the Ugandans? The audience here have to agree with us that over 20 oil and gas discoveries have been made to date in Uganda. And of course, all that is the power of the NRM. I mean, Uganda, before 1986, where I was not here, but history has it. Where was this oil, which these other political parties are boasting about? Where was it? It was nowhere. It was nowhere. And they have to accept that. They have to accept that. Before 1986, where were they? Where were these oiling companies? They were not, but here they are.
Okay.
Thank you very much, moderator.
All right, next to the Democratic Party.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rita Daisy Nachans is my name. I'm the deputy spokesperson and a member of the Manifesto Development Committee of the Democratic Party. I bring greetings from Mr. Norbert Mao, who is in Kasanda today. And please, officially seek your vote, because he may not have time to reach out to every one of you. I'll refer you to our manifesto slogan, which is Reclaim Your Future, that our comrades in the NRM have broken and stolen. I also refer you to page 44 of our 2011 manifesto that specifically speculates a policy position on oil and minerals. And I also refer you to page 28 of the 2016 Go Forward /TDA manifesto that still stipulates our position on minerals and oil. Our manifesto will be launched formally on the 26th of November this same month. However, our positions have not skewed so far from what we previously had, being that we've been a government in waiting. We have only had alterations depending on views from platforms like these. But therefore, thank you so much for such a platform, because it guides us as political parties on natural resource governance. Insights on our previous manifesto positions and what we bring forward today. I've had so many lessons that I've picked out. Carol and Benon have focused so much on inclusive advocacy. That means as parties, we cannot do anything or take policy positions without engaging communities where projects are being held. Sophie has been very keen on land and environmental conservation and legal frameworks, and this the Democratic Party has to give keen interests. My colleague presenting the young people has been very specific and outspoken on the need to skill the young people and vocational enhancement to enable our young people understand the sector better. Robert has been keen and pronounced on the need for accountability and transparency when we are having all these involved. And Elizabeth has also been particular on gender mainstreaming in gas and oil. Our policy positions previously that are not so different from what we have today. One, we are talking about establishment in Parliament, a national resource committee for oversight of our mineral resources. Secondly, we are looking at alternative regimes for land owners compensation beyond the face value of land, because as you know, I believe some of those people in the land mining areas can also guide further that most of the time when government is compensating landowners, they're basing on the face value of the land, but not the asset that is deep within the land, which is more of undermining the capacity of the asset that you're giving away to government. Secondly, transparent and non-conflicting licensing regimes. There's been also a discussion on one, the passive speculators that have licenses that they are vending to other people that want to buy the land that have minerals. This has been very, very dangerous, and your government is responsible, by the way. So we need to have a licensing regime that is transparent and accountable. Thirdly, we have had a discussion and policy position on inclusive, collaborative, and sustainable community development through community development agreements. Visible returns in terms of infrastructure, skilling programs, legal support for miners, management of scale skilling, management of small-scale miners. And in this, we are looking at how we can tap positive externalities from the investors, as well as them compensating for the negative externalities they may bring. And in positive externalities, we are looking at infrastructure like roads, like schools, like hospitals, that the investors can bring forth. And in compensation for the negative externalities, we are considering environmental degradation that they have to compensate communities for, breakdown of livelihoods where so many women, because we look at a scenario where so many women were already having livelihoods, we are farming, and now they are going to be displaced, so they need to be compensated. And lastly, on the same, we are also looking at gender mainstreaming in a way that when mining activities come closer to a community, there are high chances of sexual violence, there are so many sexual workers that emerge in the communities, and there must be mechanisms to support women to be able to balance work as well as family responsibility. And lastly, we are looking at revenue sharing program, which includes, one, how can shares be divided up among the state, the investment company, and the host community? There must be a revenue tracking system so that all can have an equal share, and then the hosting community do not feel like they are being sidelined or being cheated.
All right, thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists. The political party representatives are trying to dazzle you. They are having a charm offensive. I don't know whether it has worked or not for you to move whatever side, but at least each one of them, they mean well, and they have some flowery language, and in most cases all manifestos look good most of the time. Everybody promises to do good and to do the best for the country, so we thank you so much for having turned up and represent your political parties. This is the moment when Ugandans are going to give you the mandate. I'm sure you'll be moving to them, meeting them individually, and perhaps they're going to make a choice on an informed point. We thank you so much. So we have also, I'm told, the political party representative in this audience, and I didn't call them here. So this is the moment when you're going to put up your hand and give us what you think can be best for Uganda in the mining and the petroleum sector. We have the ecological party with us, we have the green party with us in the audience, but also you, the participants, this is the moment to add value to the manifesto, or also to add value to what the political parties are saying this afternoon. So you're going to put up your hand, you tell me your name and where you come from, which party you represent, or which civil society, or MDA, so that we give you 30 seconds to make a case on these issues. I suggest maybe you move with the hand sanitizer, so before you give them a microphone, they can also sanitize. We are in... Auntie has already spoken, but, well, okay.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Martin Okumu. I'm a parliamentary candidate for Nwea East constituency under Alliance for National Transformation. There are only two things I want to say. One, I want to advise artisanal and small scale miners that please, you better register with Uganda Registration Bureau. Because if you don't, somebody said you will continue smuggling. There are detectors, metal detectors in, frontier areas, whether at the airport, whether at the custom, they will detect what you're moving with. It takes only 20,000 Uganda shillings to register a farm. And you will be okay, you will move freely without any problem. It takes only 10,000 Uganda shillings to get a certificate of origin so that you move with your mineral anywhere in the world. Please do that, because I'm saying this, moderator, I used to be the signatory for certificate of origin for more than 8 years. So I know the challenges artisanal miners are going through. The last thing I want to say is that all what we are saying, all what is in the manifesto, I've also included it in ANT manifesto, because I've been the chair of the manifesto committee making. Okay. It is there. But lastly, manifesto is manifesto, but it is only the implementation which will make a difference. If we don't implement even what we are launching today, it will be hollow, it will remain a small book, and nothing will come out of it.
All right.
And
Mr. Kumu, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumu. Okay, there's a gentleman right here. If you can make it even more brief than Martin did.
Thank you very much. I'm Manuel Chibirige. I represent miners and I'm also a miner. I would like to applaud NUP and DP. And I think this shows that the country is going. We need leaders who take time to think about our own problems. For the gentleman who said, for us already we're in the system, it is for the government, but we also make the government. And what we have, we hold mineral rights legally given to us by governments. This government, some of us have taken about 4 years looking for just one mineral right, which is benefiting 10,000 people in Uganda. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to take maybe 5 or 4 more, but in case you don't have views, I could also ask the Green Party representative.